Welcome to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast.
Every week, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks with a fair amount of nonsense thrown in.
Sure, they're never the first with the news, nor the best connected, and definitely more off the rails than on.
But they've been talking puck the longest, and that counts for something, right?
So strap in for the longest running, best mediocre Canucks Hockey Podcast.
It's C4 with Chris and Anna.
So, is it your fault that the city of Vancouver manifested a sinkhole in downtown on was it like Robson and Thurlow or something like that?
I think I may have accidentally manifested that. Like, my wish for a sinkhole to open up outside the arena in Florida just got a bit confused. Mm-hmm. And then they said, we're going to throw one in Vancouver instead. So, yeah, unfortunately, nothing happened to Florida or Edmonton. Florida won the cup, and
if you're like, well, what the heck are they talking about? It's the title of the last episode, which is approximately 2 weeks ago, and I saw your comment about it on Blue Sky a little bit late, so it didn't seem to be as timely to respond to. But I made note to ensure that I covered it at the top of the show.
Yeah. So the Florida Panthers, unfortunately.
Well, it was unfortunate, or it was going to be unfortunate. And I honestly, as unfortunate as it was that the Florida Panthers won, I'm not entirely sure I'm prepared for an Edmonton Oilers Stanley Cup quite yet.
I know, it's so funny because it's like I didn't necessarily want the Florida Panthers to win, but it was also funny watching Edmonton lose. It's a strange thing.
Yeah, I know. Like, people are like, Chris, it's, bring it back to Canada. It doesn't matter who. I'm like, okay, first of all, as someone who was told quite emphatically by many Canadian hockey fans that did not cheer on the Vancouver Canucks in 2011.
Yeah.
There are bad teams. And as a result, I now interpret most Canadian teams as bad. That said, I'm okay if Connor McDavid wins himself a cup.
Yeah,
Ray Bourque did too.
Like, it does seem strange that we have as many Stanley Cups as the best player of his generation, right up there with one of the best to play the game. That's strange.
Yeah. How many Calder Cups does Connor McDavid have?
I'm guessing also none. He went straight from the O to the NHL.
Never been in the A.
Yeah. But yeah, talking of Canada's team team is Abbotsford Canucks, baby.
Okay. So the Abbotsford Canucks beat the Charlotte Checkers in 6 games.
6 games. That was also maybe my fault. I did say I couldn't watch Game 5, so I wanted them to win in 6.
Now, if you recall, I had commented that all that Abbotsford needed to do was win 1 game in Charlotte because of how the AHL playoffs, and then they can win 3 at home. They almost did. It went to overtime in Game 5, and
unlucky bounce. Or 3.
A goal that was scored that, I don't know who it was that scored it. Was it Pugliarvi or whatever? Or?
I think it was credited to him, but I went off 3 Abbotsford Canucks players.
He was the last checker to touch it. He'll describe it to his kids as top shelf. It was a horrible series of bounces. But, Abbotsford was due considering they won a game that kind of they lost.
Well, yes, in the fact that, yes, they did have a goal chalked off against them in overtime. And, I kind of agree with Manny Milhotra's assessment that, it was really unlucky how they lost the game, but really they shouldn't have ended up in overtime in the first place, so that's on them.
We're going to talk a little bit about the Abbotsford Canucks, how that might, also tie into the big team of the Vancouver Canucks. Lots has sort of been happening around the league. The NHL entry draft is fast approaching. That is happening this weekend. I guess we can call it weekend because,
that's crazy,
sort of starts
isn't it?
Near the end of the week. And then free agent frenzy kicks off this time next week. So, yeah, lots going on. But before we get into all of that, let's talk a little bit more about your Abbotsford Canucks in Rewind. I have to admit, I didn't watch much of the series. If it was televised like on TV, I would have tuned in. I would have flipped on to whatever channel I needed to, but it wasn't. And as a result, I got started paid attention vicariously through others, through social media, watched some highlights and what have you. But if there is one thing that I'm like, effing rights, bud, it's when Philip Di Giuseppe is wishing some of the locals well as the Calder Cup is being handed off.
Yeah, I mean, I just love this photo. So yes, Chase Waters, the captain of Abbotsford, lifting the Calder Cup, the first time in professional history, professional team history. You know that a hockey team has won since the Millionaires, I guess. At least in the modern era. And Phil Di Giuseppe is flipping the bird at the opposing fans in the background.
Not just one bird.
Yeah.
No, he brought out a double barrel.
So, I mean,
one on each hand.
If anyone was listening to the game or watching the game, Charlotte Checkers were not impressed with how that game was officiated. I don't think they have a ton to complain about, considering how many penalties they got given throughout the game. But there was a couple of decisions that could have gone either way. But yeah, they were booing real loud, which was a shame. Obviously, that's not how you want to receive it, but the Abbotsford Canucks players certainly didn't care. They were going crazy, going completely crazy.
PDG is now going to be synonymous with Canucks lore. Mm-hmm. We got Conan the Barbarian, and we got PDG flipping the birds. I mean, that's how things are. The other thing that caught my attention was Francesco Aquilini celebrating on social media. # not selling the team.
I know. It was just...
Or something along those lines.
There was a few hashtags, but the last one was not selling the team. And it was just... I get there's been quite a lot of heat on him and with Paolo Aquilini leaving and whatever. But, come on, dude. This moment is not about you. It just seems so petty.
Whoa, wait a minute. It's all about the owner. The owner is the one who makes that happen.
I mean, thankfully, hockey is not a sport where the owner gets the trophy first.
I think it's the only one.
Baseball
owner, football owner.
I thought that was only an NFL thing. I only learned recently that other leagues do it.
Well, actually, soccer goes to the players. Okay, I'll withdraw the almost everywhere, but yeah, in North America, nearly every sport, save for hockey and soccer.
And it was very cool. I mean, Chase Waters, the first Abbotsford Canuck, the captain. He's been such a great leader, on and off the ice. Huge person in the community. The team just love him. Lifting the cup, and then giving it to the MVP, Arda Shilovs, who just so thoroughly deserved the MVP. He was the most important player, that's for sure. So key in Abbotsford. Okay, just think about the statistic or fact. It's not really a stat, but Abbotsford Canucks were never behind in any series. They played 5 rounds.
Mm-hmm. The play-in all the way through.
Yeah, they didn't lose more than 2 games in a row. That's insane. The fight back they had within games after a loss, with Manny Malhotra truly playing chess, not checkers.
Mm-hmm. But he's not yet NHL ready, and I will eat crow. I certainly will. If he gets an NHL job and he's done what he did in Abbotsford, wherever he were to land, I will eat that crow proudly, but humbly.
Yeah, it's hard not to look at next year with Adam Foote in the NHL job, who hasn't really got the experience either. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess we just got to hope that he doesn't get... I guess there's one empty head coach spot that he doesn't get that. Because I do think he is a man for the future. I think he is just throughout this playoffs. This team in January was, nowhere. They were 8th in the Pacific Division, maybe 7th. But, really competitive division. Didn't look like they were gonna certainly not make not like cup contenders for sure.
You could argue they were somewhat of a carbon copy of what the big club
Yeah.
was like.
And I think he's just taken this team by the scruff of the neck for sure. But done it in a way that, like, the team, like, the attitudes of the players. I was trying to write down. I picked out a couple of MVPs, and then I was trying to write down, like, who were the good people, like the level below. And there was just way too many. That's, like, the MVPs for me, Shilovs for sure, Manny Malhotra, Ryan Johnson, like, RJ, like, players do not say, like, they have so much to say about how RJ has helped their development as players. He seems just like the most solid person. He's fixed a broken prospects pipeline. I also have to shout out broadcaster Brandon Astle, and I hope people took some time.
Hey, he was given some help in the postseason.
Yeah. Yep, Landon Ferraro was there. Sorry, I like, it's night and day to me. Like, Brandon Astle, the amount he knows and how entertaining he is compared to Landon Ferraro. Nepo baby. Like,
the little I listened to, like, Brandon Astle was accustomed to doing it by himself, and having Landon Ferraro sort of come in late in the game, there's no sort of real chemistry being developed. Brandon was then having to somewhat not hold back, but remember, there's a partner now.
And, like,
still.
Yeah, Landon has his own Calder Cup experience. He's a Calder Cup winner, like, to draw on. But, I just think Brandon Astle is absolutely awesome at his job. Like, the amount he knows, like, if you listen to him regularly, he'll be like, if there's someone on the opposing team who, like, had a cup of coffee, played a singular hockey game in BC, like, he knows about it, like, or their cousin.
When are you going to ask him to join us on the show?
Yeah, I should, for sure. He's so interesting, and he, if anyone's following his Instagram, he had a pretty fun night celebrating with the team, so well deserved. But yeah, like, as far as anyone else, there was some impressive players. Linus Carlson, Sammy Blay, Stanley Cup winner, now Calder Cup winner. Archie Baines was great. Sasson was pretty good. Mancini tailed off a little bit, but was decent, and Lakamaki finally showed up. But yeah, like, in terms of translating to the NHL club, yes, it shows they have some depth. So, but it wasn't like, Artu Ratu didn't play almost all of the postseason. Lakamaki showed up near the end. But yeah, like, it's not as simple as, now the Canucks have a new fourth line. Let's just take the Abbotsford top line. As dominant as they were. Like, yeah. I think still a good story. But yeah.
Play introduced the possibility that the Vancouver Canucks look to trade a goaltender that they currently have under contract in the big club?
I would say I wouldn't be rushing to do that, even though I can't say enough about how well Artur Shilov played.
Just tell him every game's a playoff game, and he seems to
Yeah.
handle the pressure real well. It's the regular season that seems to be the struggle.
I know. So I do think, like, he's definitely made the conversation more complicated because, yes, he requires waivers every time he gets sent down. He is not going to be an easy, like, third goalie that you just send up and down whenever you want. But I wouldn't be saying, this absolutely proves that Shilovs is ready to be an NHL backup, because we literally said that after the playoffs. We said, there's no doubt about it, he's ready to be an NHL backup.
And he proved us wrong.
Yeah. Because also we can't have, like, I'd say he's ready to be an old school backup, like, play 10 to 15 games. But, like, Yeah, we need
So-
a 1A, 1B situation, and that's difficult.
Well, and this is the thing, is if Sheloff does become the backup, and let's say he is the number 2, very clearly the number 2, I don't see it being Thatcher Demko that the Vancouver Canucks, ride and die on.
That's,
It would
because
be
you
Kevin
can't.
Lankinen, and I don't know if Lankinen is your, 70-game
Yeah,
starter.
that's the thing. I think, one, we can't depend on Demko to deliver 70 games. Or even,
Well, I wouldn't ask
60.
that of him.
Yeah, like, he's just doesn't seem to have the, physical capability to do that. Two, he's the player you would, want on, the market. But yeah, I don't think Kevin Lankinen has necessarily, without doubt, proven that he's a 70-game, NHL starter. And Sheloff hasn't out and out proven that he's a, 1B backup for sure.
Oh, well, it just makes for an interesting off season.
It does.
And maybe preseason.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Lakamaki showing up to the last bit maybe increases his trade value.
Yeah.
Make that 15th overall pick a bit more enticing.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that possibility a little bit later. But a couple notes. First and foremost, this is the first Calder Cup in the Pacific in the AHL, which, to put into perspective,
I didn't know that.
And I think we appreciate being fans of a team in the West of the NHL. The Western teams in the AHL travel more than the Eastern teams. But when you look at the AHL,
Yeah.
the Eastern teams, they make a trip out west, and that is that. And I apologize if everyone's listening to Sky. It must be
Okay,
horrible
I'm
times
kind of
in the
glad
Canadian
that was your
men's,
dog, though.
soccer match. No, so the kid and wife have gone to the pool, and they've left the dog here. So she's currently letting everyone know how upset she is. I'm chopped liver. The dog could care less about me.
But yes.
But what I was going to say is the Checkers hadn't traveled
Yeah,
out
they
of their
didn't play
time
the
zone
Abbotsford
since
Canucks.
January.
Yeah, they didn't play the Abbotsford Canucks all season. Abbotsford didn't play their Western Conference final opponents all season. And anytime the Canucks are traveling, they got the Canucks playing for the finals, but they're doing a lot of coach travel. They're flying commercial anytime they're getting on a plane. It's tough.
Yeah, and it's not just the outside Canucks that obviously are flying commercial or what have you. All teams, when they're traveling, for the most part, do in the A, but the Western teams do it a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the Canucks, the Abbotsford Canucks, it's different life down the highway, that's for sure. But I think they have shown that, a great deal of group resilience, and, we heard so much after the Florida Panthers won about, how close they were as a group, but, it really seems like Abbotsford is like that too, and I think Manny's a big part of that. I think Ryan Johnson is a big part of that too.
Yeah, I wonder how this will translate into filling that barn on a regular basis. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I've not been to an Abbotsford Canucks game. The last time I went to Abbotsford was when the Chicago Wolves were playing the Abbotsford Heat in the way back times.
Yeah.
Chicago Wolves being the Canucks affiliate, Abbotsford Heat being the Calgary affiliate.
Yeah.
And about the only time that Abbotsford Heat got a full barn was when Chicago
was Paul
was
Platic. Yeah.
The thing about this, though, is I hope it translates into more support. It's good for the community. The Abbotsford Entertainment Center is a nice little barn.
I've been to one game. I was hoping to go to the Calder Cup finals, either one of the home games there, but they sold out pretty quick. But I will say, it's very small. It's smaller, than the Doug Mitchell, in my opinion. I think it maybe holds the same, but
I was gonna say, I think it can fit 10,000, maybe a little bit more than that.
Yeah, it's tiny. It feels very small.
Well, it's a single bowl, and they've got some sweets sort of above.
Yeah, I also managed to drink them out of IPA the time I was there, so go me. But yeah, like the support's been great. It does seem like they had great crowds throughout the playoffs. So yeah, I do hope it continues. But yeah, it's a big community support for sure.
Anywho, congratulations to the Abbotsford Canucks on that win. Thanks for bringing a cup to the Canucks organization, and maybe a handful of the players and personnel might contribute to the Vancouver Canucks winning the Stanley Cup down the road. All of that can be considered as we take a break. You're listening to the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Anna and Chris.
Take hitting out of the game. You can't hit anymore, so don't do it.
The unsportsmanlike conduct, I want to get an explanation on it.
No kidding.
Because how do you get suspended for unsportsmanlike conduct?
Plus interference. There's no interference there. He had the puck.
Now, Madison never ever did that before. Now, why did he do it? And that because he was mad.
Well, your early favorite for the Calder Trophy, that's for sure. Elias Pettersson, you might even say your early favorite for the Hart Trophy.
Just to get back to your question, Elias is going to play plenty. He didn't play. He's going to get a lot of power play time. And yeah, I'm concerned about our offense. We lost 200-point players, and we've got to find a way to score.
The Vancouver Canucks have not, as we are recording, consummated a trade with anyone as of yet.
Let's not say consummated.
Why is that word too moist?
Yep.
Okay, off the rails. There's a series of words that are just like, oh, I don't like the sound of it.
Yeah.
Are there any others I should not be bringing up?
No, just don't be weird and call trades being consummated.
That's what they do. The two GMs get together. They whisper,
Sweet nothings.
Sweet nothings into each other's ears.
And hope
next thing you know,
they get
a
sweet
trade is
somethings.
born.
Yeah. When two general managers love and respect each other very much. God.
This is why we are considered the best mediocre Canucks podcast out there. So no, the Vancouver Canucks have not made a deal with anyone as we are recording.
Yeah.
Elias Pettersson still remains a Vancouver Canuck. They still retain their first
Elias
round
Pettersson
draft
also.
pick. Oh yeah, sorry. This is the confusing. Can we just say PD and DPD? Would that be okay?
Yeah, let's do that.
I was in the back of my mind. Is it Elias or Elias? Whatever. It's one of them. We had to collect them all.
Yeah.
But some of the targets that were believed to be of interest to Vancouver have found their way elsewhere. So the Anaheim Ducks have sent Zegras to the Flyers because, why not?
Rick Tockett's going to fix him.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I can fix that, man.
Mm-hmm. Trevor Zegras off to Philly. Mason Marchment, he's going to be playing out west, just down the highway from us in Seattle. Only cost a fourth in this year's and a third in next year's.
Yeah. For those cheekbones.
I was going to say, but if that's all that cost, I don't understand how Vancouver could not have kicked tires there.
Yeah, and maybe they were in the conversation, but it does seem strange to me, how it was meant to be. There's no one on sale, so, prices are going to be super high. Now it's just, it's sort of turning out, no, that's not really the case. There's some bargains to be had, and I want Canucks to maybe get in on those.
And being clear, long-term listeners will be like, wait, whoa. You, Chris, you talk about having lots of picks. Lots of picks is good. Yeah, I actually firmly believe in having lots of picks. I would have firmly believed that the Vancouver Canucks have needed to have lots of picks for a long time because they were a team that needed to go and build. Problem is that this front office and this ownership group don't carry the same logic that I have. So if they're going to go and not build, trade picks for reasonable players and sign them for reasonable deals if you do find them in free agency. So
yeah, and we're aware here that one, Trevor Zegras has some issues, and that two, Mason Marchment isn't a star player and Canucks need scoring, big first line scoring, but they're good players. These are solid middle six guys. Yeah, especially Mason Marchment. Trevor Zegras, I think, is too much of an unknown quantity as to whether he bounces back or not. But like, yeah, both pretty cheap prices. But yeah, it does seem to be that like Anaheim had truly given up on Trevor Zegras. Like they literally signed his mentor, like, and they still said, no, you're gonna go out and play with Rick Tocchet.
Yeah. Oh, if you can hear Sky again, I guess now, someone dared walk past our place. The thing that I have an issue with, and maybe I shouldn't say it's an issue, because maybe the Vancouver Canucks did kick tires, and maybe they just didn't want to
Maybe they have a plan.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they do. And maybe they didn't want to offer up picks because they finally come to realize, like, nah, you know what? Maybe we need to, rebuild on the down low, which is scary in its own right. But I don't, like, they have problems, as you've outlined. Like
they have problems, yep.
Issue. Marchman is better than a Jag. You're probably going to go and acquire in free agency for inflated value. Zegras, I think, is more of a flyer. You're hoping that
he is a flyer. He's literally a flyer.
Okay, prior to becoming a flyer, was a flyer. That you're hoping maybe change of scenery, change of system,
playing with his bestie, and maybe they'll.
Yeah, but I don't think Adam Foote's the guy to fix him. Like Rick Tocchet is going to try to fix him.
I mean, the two of them together could definitely fix him, but yeah,
they're not together.
I know.
Yeah,
I know they got divorced.
But who knows? The Vancouver Canucks apparently. I mean, this is all the smoke that's out there. Are not a desirable location.
Wait, what? Why do you say that? Tax. Yes.
Yeah, it's totally the tax. It's talk to Premier Eby. That's the problem. The PST is an issue.
I mean, very quick sidebar that I do think it's so stupid how, like, all the talk gets simplified into Florida is a no-tax state. Like, there's so much more to the Stanley Cups that Tampa and Florida have won. But players do care an extraordinary amount about that, especially, like, rich players.
Tax and escrow.
Like, I know NHL is nothing compared to the other sports. But like...
money.
Yeah, these...
Rich like feed rich.
Yeah, and you don't get rich, I guess, by giving away your money, which I'm sure that's how they consider tax.
Okay.
Anyway.
Kind of related, kind of off the rails here. I believe there are players who, if given two equal choices, would choose, let's say, Florida as being a no-tax state. I don't entirely believe the NHL needs to deal with that as a global solution. Like, I don't view the NHL as...
Yeah, what is the NHL going to do? The NHL is like the least powerful league.
No, but like they're
ready for state taxes.
They're not going to change state taxes, but they could. I mean, the NHL has done crazy things before, where they could introduce, fuzzy math based on your state tax and revenue and how cap space is accrued and spent, and that's the thing I don't feel the NHL should play with, because that just creates a significant amount of inequity.
Another sort of sidebar on this, related to what the NHL want to meddle in. I was hearing a story about them, like, investigating the Edmonton Oilers for cap management, which seems crazy to me, considering Vegas and Tampa exist.
So I don't know all of the details, but it sounds like the Edmonton Oilers... So... The way it works in NHL is there's like zero tolerance to exceeding the cap for even a minute during the regular season. If you go over a penny, that is a big, big deal. You cannot do that.
Yes.
And the problem lay in how Edmonton was managing their cap and LTIR and doing calculations. And the perception is they had exceeded during the regular season by a modest amount.
Okay.
You're right. You have Vegas, who's like, yeah, man, we didn't exceed because that player did not play 82 games.
Yeah.
So they're free. Edmonton made the egregious decision of actually having a player play regular season games, having been legitimately injured at some point during the season.
Right. I think I heard it was in relation to I forget who, but missed 2 playoff games and then started. But yeah, interesting. Because obviously, Vegas and Tampa have just exploited the loopholes.
But that's perfectly fine. They're not the Vancouver Canucks. Edmonton's a little bit close by proximity, so they're coated with the Vancouver cap stink.
Yeah, they're also Canadian.
Yeah.
So
I don't think anything comes of it. If something were to...
Yeah, I doubt it will either, but, like, it is funny that the NHL is sending these warning shots across, like, Edmonton's foul. Like, come on.
I don't know. I still believe that the NHL should have a hard cap with a significant penalty for teams that exceed, but, like, luxury tax it almost, where the money then gets distributed.
Yeah.
To teams who are cap compliant, like across the board, not like, so like Major League Baseball has luxury taxes, which there are teams who, as far as their business model is concerned, they don't ever have to be successful because they make just enough to get by. And the big clubs, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Red Sox, luxury tax supplements that, and owners make money. So there's no incentive to be better. I like how the NHL does have the floor in that regard, but I don't want a team who is as close to the floor as possible as receiving a better reward for mediocrity than a team who is trying to push to the ceiling.
You don't like rewarding mediocrity, and yet
I'm a Vancouver Canucks fan. What can I say?
Mediocre podcast.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to. It's why we're never rewarded. We get 0 accolades. We're not even the unsung hero in the Vancouver podcast market. I got an email celebrating that we're like number 5, and I'm like, BS, man. We're 136.
I would take 5. That's just not true. But like,
we're number 5. Mm-hmm. We're number 5. So back on the rails here. There was some thought that Petey might be moved. He could still be moved. I mean, we got essentially a week before free agency when his NSC kicks in. He could, in theory, still be moved after that point. It's just considerably harder because then the player has some say.
Yeah.
I've read a few interviews, granted, translated from Swedish, but it does sound like he has, one, determined that he is healthy, 2, really focused on his off-season training routine, and 3, accepted sort of responsibility, whether or not that's fairly placed, but accepted responsibility on what he needs to do to become a better pro. And we talked about this sort of him coming back to Vancouver with the foot signing when they all want to play golf. And I think you should add in the rundown here, but Elliot Friedman did say that the team's still listening, requires that a center come back. But I don't know if even that's enough. Like, I kind of get the feeling that the Vancouver Canucks are like, hey, we'll entertain any offer on anyone not named Quinn.
Yes, of course. And like,
but the offer's got to blow us away.
Yeah, and I think that's the case with Pedersen. Like, I would have to be like a second line center coming back, like, at least, and that leaves you without a first line center. But you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they've lost their second line center in JT Miller. Pedersen, they've maybe lost him in his performance. Yeah, like, I mean, the story is Canucks are pretty happy with how he's been working, but in this off season, but it's just like, yeah, you really can't tell, and think we're all just hoping it works out, because him recovering his elite playing standards, like, and he truly has been at a point elite, is the best way for this to work out by a long way, because a trade even pre-July 1st is just going to be so underwhelming. So, yeah.
Off the rails here. So I was just reading an update. I got pinged by someone. So Anna and I talked about this prior to record. The Canadian men's national soccer team is currently playing El Salvador, 3rd game of the preliminary round of the Gold Cup. And someone shared this. To recap, 8 minutes in, player down on pitch, getting stitches from physio, potentially brain surgery. 2 red cards in first half. That was both El Salvador. Now, I have since been recording the podcast with you. I have not been around to hear what else has been inspired. Well, a physio has now also been sent off.
Which physio?
I'm going to presume it was an El Salvador physio. It doesn't really say. There was a penalty save. So Canada had a penalty shot. That penalty was saved. And then at some point, part of the Skycam fell onto the pitch after being hit by a ball.
That's very funny.
Anyway, I don't know if there's any score. Oh, no, there is. Canada's up 2-0 at least. Okay. Back on the rails. Well, so when you're playing a team who's 2 men down, you better hope you're scoring some goals.
Yeah. That reminds me of, do you remember that time that Bo Horvat, hit the puck into the camera? A bit of camera fell off, and Canucks successfully challenged that the camera falling onto the ice should have been play stoppage, and they got a goal chalked off for that.
I don't recall this.
It was a couple of seasons ago, but anyway.
Speaking of former Vancouver Canucks, a couple Canucks legends have some news. First, Canucks legend Alex McGillney finally inducted into the NHL Hall of Fame. It is a disgrace he's not going in as a Vancouver Canuck. Yeah, I mean, it's a disgrace it took this long. Yeah, probably that being the bigger issue, and the fact that, he is synonymous with the Buffalo Sabres. I'm just being facetious and all that. Other NHL other Vancouver Canuck legend retiring from the NHL, Nick Bonino, who, if you weren't aware, was at one point a Vancouver Canuck. Yes. Also had a music video created by Daniel Wagner and Harrison Mooney.
I do not remember that, but that's not to do with the cool, I imagine, the Bonino. No, theirs was. It was. Please sing it.
No, I'm not going to sing it. I was trying to think who the artist was, but it's I Need Bonino.
Okay. Holding Out for a Hero. Yeah. Who sings Holding Out for a Hero? It's like Flashdance, is that?
I Need a Hero, was it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I Need Bonino. Anyhow.
Wow.
Yeah. So the Daniel Wagner, and Harrison Mooney, when they're both with Pass at the Boulis, it's just, Daniel Wagner now, but they used to, on occasion, create videos and primarily music videos.
Did anyone else do that?
Musically inclined.
No,
Nick Bonino?
No, I just mean Canucks.
Canucks music videos.
Music
Clay
videos?
does them regularly.
Yeah, who's that?
Don't know. Some guy that used to host the show with me. Mm-hmm. In fact, technically, is still titled after him.
Yeah, it's true. A lot of people ask what C4 means. Yep. And it has nothing to do with me.
Nope. You weren't around back then.
No, I wasn't. I don't take offense. In the context
of Canucks.
And it's just we've been going too long to change the title.
Yeah. Bonino retires. Winnipeg signing a Blackhawk of some repute.
Yeah. Ill repute, in my opinion.
Tay's going home. It's interesting that this is announced that he is signing when he's technically, I don't exactly understand how it works in the NHL. I know there's a 1 week period where you can have conversations, but I wasn't aware that you can announce the deal before the deal can be signed.
Yeah.
He's not he was going to be a free agent. He isn't a free agent. I don't know.
I mean,
he wasn't retired. He was on whatever. I don't even injured reserved or suspended, because he didn't play due to COVID related illness.
Yes, and he's been out of the game for a while. A lot of people are calling this a good news story. I would not call it that. I just want to remind everyone of the quote from Carl Beach. Everyone knew in that locker room. That's all I need to say.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, free agency is fast around the corner. Apparently, Brock Besser is still of interest to Vancouver. P.S. Suter is still of interest to Vancouver. The fact that they're still of interest is amazing because neither one will be in Vancouver.
Yeah. P.S. Suter more likely than Brock Besser, but I still think, I think P.S. Suter will be in demand. He's a great playmaking.
I think Brock Besser will be in demand.
Sure. And, he's had a couple, down years, maybe. But, yeah, he's still an in-demand player. And, I don't want to see, like, I'm fine with Canucks getting under 5 million for Pia Suda, like, because he's going to get over that, I think, on the open market, but, like, we can't be...
Would he come back for less than that? I don't think so.
No, and we can't be tying our future to Pia Suda, like, much as I have been pleasantly surprised by how he played, especially in the latter half of the last season.
I suspect ownership is going to ensure that the Vancouver Canucks tie them to no one expensive.
Yeah, they'll say...
The hot rumor is the team is cash poor and is currently trying to sort out Paolo Aquilini's decision to peace out and not want to have any ownership stake. So
yeah, exactly. I think ownership will be very
Hashtag
pro
not selling the team.
Abbotsford Canucks, making up some cheap contracts. But yeah, like, Canucks need to make a big splash. Like...
Big splash would be like selling a quarter of the team to Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but they need to make a significant player addition.
Okay. Michael Bublé.
Yeah, although Michael Bublé, I think, has more Giants money than Canucks money.
Yeah, that's why he currently is a part owner of the Giants.
Yeah.
So when you say the Canucks need to make a splash, like, they're cash poor. The fact that the conversation was had that you can have an expensive coach or you can have a cap roster, but not both. One might say, oh, well, they saved the money on the coach so they could have a cap roster. If you think coaches are paid that much,
also,
have something to sell you.
They've got to save money for when Adam Foote gets fired during his contract.
And then to bring Manny Malhotra in?
Yeah.
He's still around?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But yes, like, Brock Besser's going. Peace be with you. It's probably for the best. Will it suck if he is in a Boston Bruins uniform next year? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's better than overpaying ridiculously for him. Like, when they... it's just infuriating when you look back at the trade deadline.
Well, I will, if the Vancouver Canucks seriously thought they were still in it, by not trading Brock, you're acquiring a piece of a puzzle to get to the playoffs. The problem, you, me, and nearly a good number of smarter people than us did not believe the Vancouver Canucks were in the playoff hunt.
And certainly not a contender.
Should have been selling.
And certainly not, like, at a position where they think Brock Besser is going to be the difference maker to help them win the cup. And that's not a slight on Brock Besser. He's he's one man.
Yeah, they needed a dozen Brock Bessers.
They needed an army.
Then they needed a few of them to be able to play defense.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, anyhow, we'll be back in a couple of weeks and stuff will have happened.
I mean, we will have more to report on.
Mm-hmm. In fact, all that news is going to break. There's going to be 7 trades tomorrow.
Including Canucks.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have some trade. They're going to somehow trade up to first overall pick.
Oh, man. Okay.
That would be...
The fact that Brian Burke
joke.
Was able to pull off what he did to get the Sedins in the lead up to that draft was nuts. But it was like the one time the Vancouver Canucks ever held the first overall draft pick in the NHL and they traded it away.
Yeah.
I get why they traded it away, but they had it in their hands.
It's too funny.
If you read Burke's autobiography, he actually talks about how he wanted to have picks 1 and 2.
Yeah, because which fact.
But David Poile did not trust Burke to like follow through on taking both of the Sedins.
Yeah, which is crazy to look back on it. Like, what the hell did Patrick Stefan do?
And so, but that's like Patrick Stefan would have been available further down. Like, it was just Burke wanted one. Burke was trying to make a big splash, which he did, but he wanted it even bigger, 1 and 2. Anyhow.
Yeah. There you go.
Who knows? Maybe Jim Rutherford and Patrick Galvin, and we'll pull that off.
Although, speaking of the draft, it was a PWHL entry draft tonight.
Oh, yes. I honestly had forgotten about it. I apologize, but I do recall reading that it was happening today.
So, Vancouver actually, once again, doing some interesting things at the draft, but most of that was not picking players. They made a trade giving away their second-round pick, I believe, in exchange for a goalie who will become their number 2 goalie. And, yeah, the Canucks have just... the Canucks, wow. That was...
The PWHL franchise that plies its trade in Vancouver.
That's it. They
have a team anymore.
They've done so well in signings and the expansion draft, for the most part, that really they didn't need to do a lot in the draft, but they've picked some interesting players. The number 7 pick they had... name I have forgotten, but she is the most experienced player in the PWHL now because of her 4 Olympics in playing for Finland. So yeah, anyway, interesting.
Cool.
Should be an interesting PWHL season.
And the Vancouver franchise has a practice facility, which, again,
I've-
for those paying attention, the Vancouver Canucks do not have.
Yeah, a Vancouver team has a franchise. A Vancouver franchise has a practice facility. A Lower Mainland, a Canucks franchise has a cup. All of these things are true. We're just not being specific about it.
Yeah, and you and I are being so pessimistic, regardless of these very positive developments. Oh, anyhow, here we are, end of a show. It's been a spell. Any final words of wisdom there, Anna?
Yeah, it's kind of weird that hockey's finally over for the summer, but you know, cricket's still around.
Well, yeah, I'm fired up about cricket.
I'm going to the Whitecaps game tomorrow. You're not, because you're not a real fan.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah, Canadians baseball is around, so let's enjoy.
I saw you went to the Seas and you didn't invite me.
Yeah, it was a girls' trip. Mean. Otherwise, you would have.
You'd still take me.
You can be. You're one of the honorary girls for sure.
I am totally an honorary girl. Final words of wisdom from me is that when you're coaching a U8 girls softball team, dance like no one's watching you, because they all are. And it's all about the kids having fun. On that note, so I don't know if we've talked about this, but I created a walk-up song, or
yes,
music and voiceovers. Yeah. And I created one for both myself and our other coach. And for me, it's a segment of a song called Dance Mode from the children's TV show Bluey.
Sure.
Where the dad, Bandit, goes and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm doing this for my kids," and he starts dancing. So I play that, and then I start dancing.
Of course.
The girls love it. They think, Coach Chris is so silly, but they're having fun. One of the girls in the team that we were playing against, she was so amazed. She's like, "Oh my God, you should be in competitive dance." And she was genuinely saying it. I'm like, "Oh my God,
that's so cute.
It's the nicest thing someone's ever said." I ran over. I'm like, "I got to give you a high five." And then I had parents from the opposite team come out like, "Oh my goodness, you have so much fun and your girls are enjoying the sport so much. I love it. Thanks for doing what you do." Yeah. So,
yeah.
Dance like nobody's watching, because they certainly all are.
Sure.
Yeah. If you've reached this point of the show and you're curious as to how you can continue to tune in, smash the subscribe button on whatever podcast application that you're listening to. If you've rediscovered us because you're like, "Well, wait, my old feed went away, but suddenly you're back." We never actually went away. That was the old host. We're same old podcast, but we're all independent. Anna and I pay the bills and got us back online. You can obviously tell a friend and a family member and talk about C4 and all of the different social media platforms. And if you were thinking, well, Anna and Chris do pay the bills, I would love to help them out with that.
Yes.
You can go to c4podcast.com. There's a link that says support the show. Or better yet, go directly to buymeacoffee.com/C4podcast. Buy Me a Coffee, otherwise known as
Buy me a pint.
And you can throw a few bucks our way, either on just a one-off basis. It's what we call buying us a pint. Or you can subscribe to us on a monthly or annual basis. And in doing so, gets you access to not only the good feelings of supporting the show, but to C4 Off the Rails, which whenever I get around to publishing episodes, make sure that you get an extra bonus segment of Anna and Chris talking about all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of nonsense.
Off the Rails is like what we do in the Railer show.
Yeah.
We go way off the rails in C4OTR.
That's for sure.
So on behalf of Anna, 84603, myself, Chris Outlight for us, and the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast, found on all the social media platforms at a variety of names, we out.